The Battle of Mansfield, Louisiana, formed part of the Red River Campaign during the American Civil War, when Union forces were aiming to occupy the state capital Shreveport. The Confederate commander Maj. Gen. Richard Taylor chose Mansfield as the place where he would make his stand against the advancing Union Army under Nathaniel Banks. Taylor concentrated his forces at Sabine Crossroads, knowing that reinforcements were nearby. Banks prepared for a fight, though his own army was not fully assembled either. Both sides were reinforced by stages through the day. After a brief resistance, the Union Army was routed by the Confederates, consisting mainly of units from Louisiana and Texas, reportedly strengthened by hundreds of men breaking parole. The engagement is also known as the Battle of Sabine Crossroads. Prelude. During the second half of March 1864, a combined force from the Union Army of the Gulf and Navy led by Major General Nathaniel P. Banks ascended the Red River with the goal of defeating the Confederate forces in Louisiana and capturing Shreveport. By April 1, Union forces had occupied Grand Ecory and Natchitoches, while the accompanying gunboat fleet with a portion of the infantry continued up the river. The main force followed the road inland toward Mansfield, where Banks knew his opponent was concentrating. Maj. Gen. Richard Taylor, in command of the Confederate forces in Louisiana, had retreated up the Red River in order to connect with reinforcements from Texas and Arkansas. Taylor selected a clearing a few miles south of Mansfield as the spot where he would take a stand against the Union forces, sending his cavalry to harass the Union vanguard as it approached. Taylor called his infantry divisions forward. The morning of April 8 found Banks' army stretched out along a single road through the woods between Natchitoches and Mansfield. When the cavalry at the front of the column found the Confederates taking a strong position along the edge of a clearing, it stopped and called for infantry support. Riding to the front, Banks decided that he would fight Taylor at that spot, and he ordered all his infantry to hurry up the road. It became a race to see which side could bring its forces to the front first. Forces involved. Confederate forces at the start of the battle. Taylor had approximately 9,000 troops consisting of Brigadier General Alfred Mouton's Louisiana, Texas Infantry Division, Major General John G. Walker's Texas Infantry Division, Brigadier General Thomas Green's Texas Cavalry Division, and Colonel William Vincent's Louisiana Cavalry Brigade. He had also called on the 5,000 men in the divisions of Brigadier General Thomas J. Churchill and Brigadier General Mosby M. Parsons, which had been encamped near Keechee, between Mansfield and Shreveport. These troops arrived late in the afternoon, after the battle had commenced. Anecdotal evidence indicates that there were additional Louisiana men in the ranks. This included paroled soldiers from units that had surrendered at Vicksburg. Historian Gary Joyner claimed that there may have been from several hundred to several thousand of them. The Confederate governor of Louisiana, Henry Watkins Allen, had organized 2 battalions of the State Guard and brought them to Taylor's aid. Yet the documentary record is unclear as to what role they played in the battle. Joseph Blessington, a soldier in Walker's division, wrote that the Louisiana militia, under command of Governor Allen, was held in reserve in case of an emergency. In addition, Blessington wrote that, from the surrounding communities, old men shouldered their muskets and came to our assistance. Union forces at the start of the battle. The Union forces consisted of a cavalry division commanded by Brig. Gen. Albert L. Lee, consisting of approximately 3,500 men, and the 4th Division of the 13th Corps, commanded by Col. William J. Landrum, consisting of approximately 2,500 men. During the battle, the 3rd Division of the 13th Corps, commanded by Gen. Robert A. Cameron, arrived with approximately 1,500 men. The battle ended when the pursuing Confederates met the 1st Division of the 19th Corps, commanded by Brig. Gen. William H. Emory, with approximately 5,000 men. Thomas E. G. Ransom commanded the 13th Corps during the engagement, while the 19th Corps was commanded by William B. Franklin. The battle. During the morning, Taylor positioned Mouton's division on the east side of the clearing. Walker's division arrived in the afternoon and formed on Mouton's right. As Greene's cavalry fell back from the advancing U.S. forces, 2 brigades moved to Mouton's flank and the 3rd to Walker's flank. The Arkansas Division arrived around 3:30 but was sent to watch a road to the east. The Missouri Division did not arrive until around 6 p.m., after the battle was fought. About noon, the Union Cavalry Division, supported by 1 Infantry Brigade of Landrum's division, was deployed across a small hill at the south end of the clearing. Shortly thereafter, the other brigade of Landrum's division arrived. Cameron's division was on its way, but would not get there until the battle had already begun. For about 2 hours the two sides faced each other across the clearing as Banks waited for more of his troops to arrive and Taylor arranged his men. At that point, Taylor enjoyed a numeric advantage over Banks. At about 4 p.m., the Confederates surged forward. On the east side of the road, Mouton was killed, while several of his regimental commanders were hit as well and the charge of his division was repulsed. However, west of the road, Walker's Texas Division wrapped around the Union position, folding it in on itself. Ransom was wounded trying to rally his men and was carried from the field. Hundreds of Union troops were captured and the rest retreated in a panic. As the first Union line collapsed, Cameron's division was arriving to form a second line, but it too was pushed back by the charging Confederates, with Franklin wounded as well but remaining on the field in command. For several miles the Confederates pursued the retreating Union troops until they encountered a third line formed by Emory's division. The Confederates launched several charges on the Union line but were repulsed while nightfall ended the battle. Aftermath. The Union forces had suffered 113 killed, 581 wounded, and 1,541 captured, as well as the loss of 20 cannon, 156 wagons, and 1,000 horses and mules killed or captured. More than half of the Union casualties were from 4 regiments: 77th Illinois, 130th Illinois, 19th Kentucky and 48th Ohio. Most of the Union casualties occurred in the 13th Corps, while the 19th Corps lost few men. Kirby Smith would report that Confederate loss was about 1,000 killed and wounded at Mansfield, but precise details of Confederate losses were not recorded. Some of the wounded, perhaps 30, were taken to Minden for treatment. Those who died of wounds there were interred without markers in the historic Minden Cemetery. They were finally recognized with markers erected on March 25, 2008. The local town of Keechee converted its women's college into a hospital and morgue on its second floor. 100 soldiers' remains are marked nearby in Keechee's Confederate Cemetery, maintained by the local Sons of Confederate Veterans and Daughters of the Confederacy.